Now, a court in the United States has allowed the country's national security agency, the NSA, to resume spying on U.S. citizens. Court documents show a judge of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court ruled that the NSA might temporarily collect domestic phone calls in bulk. The judge also rejected an appeals court verdict against the surveillance program. The move comes less than a month after Congress passed the Freedom Act replacing the Bush-era Patriot Act that was used by the NSA as the legal basis for spying on U.S. citizens. The Freedom Act allowed the existing espionage to continue for a 6-month transition period. But it remained in legal limbo pending Monday's ruling. The Justice Department has welcomed the decision. The American Civil Liberties Union says it will ask the Court of Appeals to issue an injunction to halt the spying program. Well, to discuss this further, let's go to Washington and talk to Raymond McGovern, former CIA analyst. Welcome to the program, sir. Mr. McGovern, what would this mean for not only Americans but for the entire world? Because after all, the NSA leaks had a global impact.
Well, indeed, the NSA reach is worldwide. The technology allows everything to be collected, mind-boggling as that may be. And the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, which seems to enjoy more respect and more power than any other court in our land, has just blessed the continuation of this program as provided for in the Patriot Act revision, which said they could do it for 6 more months. Bottom line here is that if NSA wants to continue doing this, and the president wants it as well, then the courts and the legislature will fall in line, in other words, they don't want to be accused of being soft on terrorism.
Many say that after all of what's happened around the world with regards to the intelligence and the famous whistleblowing by Edward Snowden, hasn't Washington been taught a lesson?
How did they what?
Hasn't Washington been taught a lesson?
Well, yes. The lesson is to make sure that you keep things under control, and that's going to be impossible because this same technology allows people like Ed Snowden, who see our rights being violated, to get the story out into the ether and then down into little things like the laptop with which I'm speaking to you. So yes, the U.S. is intent on continuing this, but the pitfalls are still there. WikiLeaks has just released a trove of new documents, not only having to do with trade agreements, but having to do with Saudi Arabia. The plug is out, and the stream will flow despite the efforts of the courts and the legislature and the executive in our country to plug it up again.
And speaking of that very technology that you're speaking of, through which the NSA is doing this spying, wouldn't that make people, especially in America, to have second thoughts when interacting with such technology?
Well, it's already having second thoughts. People know that all their conversations and their emails are liable to be picked up. Where it really hurts Americans, of course, are the American corporations. Now, the big ones that sell these equipment packages abroad. In other words, there are a lot of people in Europe and elsewhere in the world that look with jaundiced eye on the latest issue from Microsoft or from Google or from Apple or whatever. So with U.S. business being harmed, well, that makes an impact. That has power. We'll have to see how the administration deals with that. But meanwhile, any request for intercepting conversations is virtually automatically approved. The FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, has approved something, well, tens of thousands of requests for surveillance and turned down, I think the latest number is 11. That's 11. So this will continue because the technology allows it and because people have the idea that this keeps them safe from terrorism, where in reality, there's not one terrorist attack that is proven to have been prevented by this blanket surveillance.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time. Many thanks to Raymond McGovern, former CIA analyst from Washington. Thanks for your thoughts, sir.